Libai, Endless Longing number 1. Oh, this never-ending longing to be in the capital again. An autumn cricket cries from the gold well rail. A light frost has tinged with white my bamboo mat. My only lamp is dim, dim as my fading hopes. With many sighs I raise the blind to watch the moon. She's lovely as a flower in her distant cloud. Above, the endless blue of heaven. Below, clear waters surging restlessly. With skies so wide, the road so long, my soul despairs. My dreaming spirit failed to cross the mountain pass. This never-ending longing crushes me inside. So we continue with Li Bai's heptasyllabic Juefu or ballads. So I imagine this is based on an original ballad from the Han or the period of disunion with the title Endless Longing. And this poem feels pretty conventional, I must say that from the start, even though it's Li Bai's. He might pardon me for feeling that, this is a rather trite conventional poem that, treats a very worn-out topic in a very predictable way. Well, it's part of a couple of two poems with the same title. The next one will be read tomorrow. And from what I've been checking, the first one is in a male persona longing for a woman. The second one is the opposite. It's in a female persona longing for a man. So the topic of the poem is evidently, it's quite clear, it's separation of lovers and the pain, the suffering, the lovesick heart of being away from your beloved. In this one, you could say there is a sub-theme which is usually found intertwined with poems of separation and parting, which is the subtopic of wakefulness at night. The poetic persona of the protagonist, of the male lover in this poem, who is far from his beloved, is not able to sleep at night. And most of the poem describes the sights, the thoughts, the feelings that he experiences in the wakefulness that he is experiencing. Now, what else can we say about this poem? I said it's pretty short and pretty straightforward. And well, let's go and see it section by section, couplet by couplet. Oh, this never-ending longing to be in the capital again. So the poem, it has quite a straightforward language. So it starts with a very clear manifestation by the poetic persona that they miss the capital and that the longing for being in the capital never ends. Interesting thing, I'm reading the translation, of course, but I imagine this longing and the capital might be represented by the same character, because the name of the imperial Tang capital was Chang'an, which means never-ending peace, long-lasting peace. That's the character Chang, long-lasting. So just as the poet's longing is never-ending, that longing is pointing him towards the lasting capital of the empire. So why does, from this first line, we would inquire, we would doubt, why does this person, this speaker, want to be in the capital again? Is he missing the conversation of friends, the life of luxury, being at court? But very soon we see that it's love that is keeping him sad from not being in the capital. An autumn cricket cries from the gold well rail. A light frost has tinged with white my bamboo mat. So the season is autumn, which is, as we've seen in many of the previous poems, it's very adequate, even though slightly conventional, because it's the season of sadness and melancholy. So the cricket is crying from a gold well rail. So not only sadness in autumn, but also certain luxuriousness. Whoever is speaking he or she is living in pretty opulent quarters, yeah, because his well rail is, painted with gold or decorated with gold. And this gives a yellow color to contrast with the pure white, shiny white of the next line. A light frost has tinged with white my bamboo mat. So frost and autumn and crickets, symbols of autumn. And they affect those two objects orally as a background for the gold well rail and visually as a covering and a new tinting for the bamboo mat on which the speaker, the poetic persona, must be sitting. My only lamp is dim, dim as my fading hopes. With many sighs, I raise the blind to watch the moon. So wakefulness at night, there's just one lamp on, it's light dim, and the poet thinks as dim as my hopes. And sighing, he pulls the blinds up, sees the moon. So it's nighttime, very clearly now, and there's a beautiful moon outside, which is a beautiful but sad sight as well, as it probably reminds this lover, of the departed person. One conceit in Chinese poetry is that when you see a moon and you're far from loved friends or other sort of people, the idea is both of you are probably gazing at the same moon. So you're together in the same activity but separated by thousands of miles. She's lovely as a flower in her distant cloud. Above, the endless blue of heaven. Below, clear waters surging restlessly. So this couplet is probably the most confusing in the poem. As I've said somewhere else, in Chinese there's generally no indication of gender, of tense. Pronouns exist, but are seldom used, and even more seldomly used in poetry. So probably this stands in the translation. It's clear now because she's lovely as a flower, but the poetic speaker is a man talking about a woman. I imagine in the Chinese this would probably be something like lovely flower, distant cloud. Yeah, something like that. So it's not clear that the speaker, it's not definitely clear that the speaker is a man. In fact, in another translation that I've seen of this poem, the poetic persona is the one that describes himself as a flower. So that's open to interpretation. But anyway, in the version of this poet, of Michael Farman, of this translator, the poetic persona starts to think of his beloved, who is like a flower. In her distant cloud, what would her distant cloud be? The distant world she's in, maybe the capital, maybe her residence? And we get a couple of images surrounding this distant cloud, this flower. Above, the endless blue of heaven. Below, clear water surging restlessly. So above and shared by us is the same heaven, the endless blue. Below, also shared by us, perhaps the waters that move on of the oceans or of the rivers. And I imagine this might be a continuation of the moon topic, on gazing the moon, on being separated but sharing something. Or perhaps the image of the moving waters connects with the moving anxiety and feelings and longing of the poetic persona. With sky so wide, the road so long, my soul despairs. My dreaming spirit failed to cross the mountain pass. So this plays with another conceit that we've already encountered in Levi's poetry as well. The idea that lovers, people in general, can travel in their dreams, and especially if they have an intense feeling of love for a friend or a lover, their soul will probably leave their body and visit the other person at night time. But here, the poetic persona complains that this hasn't been the case. The distance is long and he feels dispirited. His nightly spirit has not been able to cross all those mountain passes and the big distance to reach the beloved. And finally, we get a sad conclusion, which takes us back to the beginning, to the never-ending longing. This never-ending longing crushes me inside. So a love poem, and pretty conventional one. Most of the things or the elements that impress so much in Levi's translations, the things that may be translated, that can be translated beyond the original use of words and rhyme schemes and tones and so on. For example, the tropes or the use of hyperbole, they don't seem to be especially present here. So it's just a poem on sadness and separation of lovers. It's not bad. It's not bad, but as I say, I find it a bit conventional. I think I've read many poems like this. This is not one of Levi's poems that you will remember, but okay, it's well crafted, and it's a nice scene, a nice, quaint and small picture.